The toughest schedule in all of college football. Will Muschamp, if you win 7 against this schedule, you should get a bonus. Next on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, concluding our 70 video series, ranking all the schedules in the Power 5, all the major independents included, from 70 all the way up to number 1, and here it is. It belongs to the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Before we break down this schedule, I encourage you to grab the Amazon link in the description section below. Do your regular Amazon shopping using that link. It helps us build the channel. We've got another link down there as well, which it's my personal invitation for you to join the Voice of College Football community, and 2 exclusive live streams each and every week in which I bring you on to talk college football with me. And also the second exclusive live stream each and every week is my reaction to your viewer comments. And there'll probably be even more in response to this video. The number 1 schedule in college football, the most difficult, the most brutal, belongs to South Carolina. It doesn't necessarily start that way. It starts against a team that has gone, I believe, 5-19 in the last 2 years. North Carolina and Mack Brown in Charlotte, August 31st. An interesting matchup, as these are 2 teams, ACC versus SEC, that should play on a fairly regular basis. And they did, I believe, back in 2015, with South Carolina pulling off a bit of an upset against a North Carolina team that went undefeated in the ACC that season and on to the ACC championship game against Clemson. August 31st, one of these early season highlighted matchups, North Carolina against South Carolina in Charlotte. And then September 7th, South Carolina takes on Charleston Southern. So what makes this the most difficult schedule in college football? It starts on September 14th with a game against the Crimson Tide of Alabama. South Carolina defeated Alabama the last 2 times these programs met in 2010, as the Crimson Tide was defending Nick Saban's first national championship. They went to Columbia and fell by 2 touchdowns, 35-21, with Greg McElroy at quarterback. This time, South Carolina, a long 9 years later, returns the trip to Tuscaloosa September 14th. That begins a very difficult 3-game stretch in which South Carolina then travels to the other Columbia to take on Missouri September 21st. And then it's a trip actually back home to Columbia, South Carolina, to take on Kentucky on September 28th, a team that upset the Gamecocks at the Commonwealth Stadium last season. All right, a much-needed bye week after taking on 4 difficult opponents, especially, of course, Alabama, Missouri, and Kentucky, leading into the open date on October 5th, to get South Carolina prepared for this stretch: at Georgia, Florida, at Tennessee. Certainly the first 2 games are against the 2 most dominant and talented teams in the SEC Eastern Division, at Georgia and Florida, and then what we expect to be an improved Tennessee team in Knoxville, October 26th. Vandy on November 2nd, followed by what is an under-the-radar difficult contest against App State on November 9th. So you're taking on the 3-time defending Sun Belt champions, a team that took Tennessee, not the Tennessee that we saw win 5 games last year, but a Tennessee team that eventually won 9 games with Josh Dobbs at quarterback a couple years ago in Knoxville. Take that team to overtime, and if Tennessee didn't pounce on a fumble in the end zone, the game would have been over, with App State winning another Michigan-type effort against Tennessee. So a difficult draw for South Carolina, in addition to the 2 difficult Power 5 matchups that they have against the ACC. They've got App State on November 9th. Then at Texas A&M. So South Carolina's draw out of the SEC Western Division is that they get to play Texas A&M every year, and that is certainly not an easy thing, and is becoming more and more difficult as Jimbo Fisher builds that program. At Kyle Field on November 16th, then the open date, at least, they get that before meeting Clemson at home. Last year, South Carolina threw for a ton of yards, did Jake Bentley, against the Tigers, but they finally lost that game by 21 points and giving up a ton, 56-35. This time around, they do get Clemson at home. So, to wrap it all up, South Carolina may be playing the three best teams in the country in Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia. They are facing what could be two other top 10 teams in Florida and Texas A&M, and one of those games is on the road. So, most likely South Carolina is playing 5 of the top 10 teams in the nation. And that doesn't even include competent teams in Missouri on the road, Kentucky, Tennessee, Vanderbilt to a lesser degree, and North Carolina. We'll see how good the Heels could be in Mack Brown's first season. This is the toughest schedule in college football. It belongs to South Carolina as they have to face Alabama and Texas A&M out of the SEC Western Division, in addition to Georgia and Florida and all the other decent teams in the SEC East, plus Clemson, plus North Carolina, plus Appalachian State as their Group of 5 team. South Carolina, good luck in 2019. Leave your comments below. Would love to get your record projection on South Carolina. And despite all those brutal games, we've got the Gamecocks just barely reaching into postseason play at 6-6, 3-5 in the SEC. All right, that wraps up our schedule analysis and our ranking and record projection for every team in the Power 5. We will, of course, have our predictions, our final predictions before the season starts. Please dive into the videos. We've got position previews. We've got all sorts of recruiting analysis and previews for 2019 right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.